And the first thing we're going to do is set up a virtual machine. Okay, I want us to set up a virtual machine and just see how it works. All right. If you don't have virtual machines on your own page, you can simply search for it, and it will bring up a virtual machine for you, and you can click on the service. All right. I already have a virtual machine which is stopped, but we're going to create a new one. Never mind. Don't worry about that. So once you're on this page, we're going to start the lab in proper, and then we're going to create a virtual machine. We're going to create a Windows virtual machine that we can access, and we build it with the computer resources that we have available. Okay. To create a virtual machine using the GUI here, we can just click on create at the top here. It's going to ask us what type of virtual machine do we want to create. Here we're going to create a virtual machine with just a normal virtual machine on Azure. We don't need it loaded with anything. So just click on Azure virtual machine. This is a basic virtual machine, so we'll click on that, and it will take us to this page where we will build the machine to our specifications. If you already have your account set up, you would automatically have only one subscription, which is going to be the free subscription that you have, because you can't create a resource without a subscription. Okay, and for this test, you wouldn't have a resource group, so we're going to create a new resource group to impute our to house our virtual machine. So you will click on create new to create a resource group. Okay, and we're going to call this Azure training. We'll call this Azure training. Okay, we'll create that. Here we need to give our virtual machine a name. Okay, we're going to call it Azure. Let's call it Windows Server. Let's call it Windows Server. Okay. Underneath here, this is where you really enjoy the flexibility and the redundancy of Azure, because here, no matter where you are in the world, you would have the option to create your virtual machine in any of the available zones that is available on Microsoft. So here you can see these are all data centers where Microsoft has a bunch of servers, and the zones, the area where they have a data center with a lot of servers. So you can choose any of these zones to actually house your virtual machine. For this test case, we're going to select, we're just going to use US East. You can choose any option, okay? We're going to go with the US, Eastern US. For availability zone, we will leave it at zones 1. Okay, that's fine. This is a basic test, so you don't need too much configuration. All right. And under image, this is very important. Under image, since we want to create a Windows virtual machine, we need to drop down and select, a Windows image. Okay. For some of you who are conversant with setting up a Windows machine or a Windows computer, you know that you need an ISO file, the image to install Windows on a computer. Okay, so it's the same thing for your virtual machine here. You need to select the image that you want to run. In this case, we want to run a Windows computer. We have options to create to add a Windows server. We have options to add a Windows 11 computer. We have options to create a Windows 10 computer. Okay, in this case, we're going to run a Windows 10 for test, but you can create any of this. So remember, there are a lot more images that you can select, a lot more available. Okay, including Linux, Ubuntu, and a lot of them. So you can play around with that. Okay, but for this case, we're going to choose Windows 10. All right. Okay. Once we select that, you can leave it at x64 bits. That's fine. Under the size, this is where we specify the compute resources of our virtual machine. Okay, and I'm going to explain. Now, if we drop down, as a matter of fact, I'm going to click CL sizes so we can see um, the available sizes and the costs. Okay, now for this test, we'll be using a B2MS, which is a general purpose virtual machine standard, and it comes with a two vCPUs, 8 gig of RAM, 4 data disks. You know, maximum IOPS is 1920, and then you have a temporary storage of 16 gig. Okay, and this pretty much is on a cost basis. So if you want a machine with the higher resources, higher computing resources, higher RAM, higher hard disk drive, and all of that, the more you would pay. You know, that's pretty much what it means. So if I create this, it's going to cost me 60 US dollars a month. Don't worry, you're on a free subscription. So if you run your Windows machine for a month, you're still covered. Okay, but you can select from a variety of other computing resources of machines that we have available, depending on what you require for your virtual machine. There's a bunch of them that you can set up. Okay, so remember to to play around with it and just select the ones that you can. There are some expensive ones that your credit wouldn't be able to allow you to get. So let's stick to the ones that we can afford. Okay. So for this test we'll be using a B2MS, which is this one. This is what we'll be using. So you just need to select this option. Okay. And then we come here and do select. So that would select the standard B2MS compute resource for us. Okay. And then the next step would be to set up your administrator account. Okay. What's your administrator account? Your administrator account is the account that you would use to sign in into your VM once it's created, into your computer or your virtual machine once it's created. So for this, we're going to use Azure admin. Okay. We're going to set the password, something easy. That's something easy. Always make sure that your passwords are complex and not easy to guess. Okay, please do that because you can never be too sure. You need to be security conscious as well. Okay, so I'm going to set the password. Wait a moment. Okay, we've set up a username and password, and we go here. Now, when you're creating a virtual machine, you need to understand some of the basic rules. How do you connect to your virtual machine after it's been created, right? If you have connected remotely to computers or servers before in any organization, you would know that we use something called the RDP, okay, which is a remote desktop protocol on Microsoft. And it runs on port 3389. And we're going to utilize that port here as well to connect to our virtual machine once it has been created. Okay, so you don't need to change anything much here. Just make sure that our RDP is checked. All right. If you want to be able to access your virtual machine over the internet using HTTP protocols or SSH, you can always check those as well. You can always check them. HTTPS for secure HTTP, that's fine. But what we're going to be utilizing here mostly is the RDP. Okay, so let's leave it at RDP. And yeah, we can confirm that we want. It doesn't actually matter, but you can confirm. And let's go next to disk. All right, this is the page where we will specify what kind of disk usage we want and the capacity of our disk. Currently, there's a disk size of 127 gigs. You can increase that. It's you have the options to go as high as 2 terabyte. Okay, For this test, I'm just going to choose the 256 gig, which is more than enough. Okay. You have a disk type. We want the SSD, which is the premium, best performance, and can work very well. Okay, so we can choose the premium one, but it depends on your choice. We have standard SSD and HDDs, which are mostly for backups. All right, but we'll select the premium SSD, which is also fine. It's not much to change here. Okay, just key management, platform manage, that's fine. Yeah, all this is fine. Okay, and then we can move on to networking. All right. Okay, so when we get to the networking, this is where we define the network connectivity for your virtual machine by configuring the network interface card, the ports, and inbound and outbound connectivities, and the security group rules, and all of that. Since this is the first time when we're just creating a sample virtual machine, we can just use the defaults that we have, that we're provided. Okay. If you're using, if you're in an organization and you have specific IP rules, you can always create new ones and make sure that they're there. Or if you already have a virtual network set up for your organization, you can use any of this. All right, so we're just going to leave it as the default. On your end, you probably wouldn't have any other option, so we'll keep it at that. We'll scroll down, we can leave it all at default. That's fine. Okay, we can leave the public IP. This is for when you delete the VM. If you don't want to keep the public IP available or the NICs, you can select this option to delete them all when your VM is deleted. And the load balancing, we can keep it at none. This is a basic virtual machine. Okay, so we'll click next to management. Not much to do here, but in this case, if you have an organization that is connected to your Azure identity, you can check this to allow anyone who already has an account on your on your Azure Active Directory to be able to sign in. That's very easy. You just connect it to it, and that will do. But for this test, we don't have that set up, so we'll keep it as it is. For the auto shutdown, if you have a computer that you wanted to shut down at a particular time, so that because it's cost effective, it will automatically, for this, it will automatically shut down at 7 p.m. Okay, UTC standard time. You can set it to whatever time. If you're in Nigeria, for instance, you can set it to turn off by 5 o'clock. You can say 17 o'clock, which is 5 o'clock, and select the Lagos time zone, which I think is +1, West African. All right, you can just put it there to and it would also send you an email if you wanted to send her an email once once the virtual machine is going to turn off on its own. If you're currently working on it, it will not go off, but if you're not working on it, it will let you know that it's going to turn off soon. Okay. And then the next one is monitoring. You can enable alerts if you want alerts to receive alerts about your machine and all of that, like as I mentioned earlier. But in this case, we'll just do next because as I mentioned, this is a test. All right. We'll do next to tags as well, and then we'll come up to the last tab, which is review and create. So here it's going to do a validation test to make sure that all your settings are correct so far. And then once it's passed, you can scroll down to create your virtual machine. All right. So depending on the capacity that you set up on your virtual machine, it might take some time to deploy, but it usually takes between 2 to 5 minutes to deploy a virtual machine. So let's give it time. All right, so let's give it some more time, and it should be done in about 5 minutes.